Hey,
Hi there.
good to virtually meet you.
Likewise, likewise.
I was just telling everyone as you was joining, I've been anticipating this conversation, so it's a complete honor to be in this space with you.
Oh, well, I feel the same. Thank you. I'm looking forward to this conversation with you in this time of purpose.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's do some introductions because there is an icon. I am looking at an icon tonight. I
Oh,
would love for you to just give us a snippet of the wonder of your work, the span of what you've done, and then we're gonna break it down as well.
it is a joy to get up every day and go to work on our behalf. And no matter, if I look back in the day from working with Rosa Parks and Angela Davis and Alice Walker and Camille Cosby, models like Naomi, legends, in fact, legends like Iman, and certainly legends like Mrs. Obama and President Barack Obama. And the list goes on and on, even women whose names one might say are not household names, but they are legendary sisters in their community and in their corporate corridors or wherever we show up, you know that purpose is in the works and diligence and just that thing that we bring to whatever we do. And so, if you can imagine that is something called work, to tell our narrative, to certainly affirm us, to inspire us, to inform us, and to work, certainly in my former position as beauty and cover director at Essence, to work with beauty companies to help them see beauty through our lens, because it's very different. It's very different how we behold ourselves. We don't even shop products like, other cultures. We shop experiences that we want to embrace. It's, if you look at our relationship with our hair, if you look at our relationship with our skin and our temples, and the list goes on and on. This is a very different, if I boil it down to the lowest common denominator for a manufacturer, this is a very different consumer. In fact, these are all queens, and you have
Absolutely.
them as such. So it's been, and continues to be, an amazing journey, because as we evolve, I evolve, as the stories that I tell evolve, the speaking engagements and how I talk about us or how I talk to us, all of that shifts, and evolves, because we are shaping the world. And this is the time that the ancestors, if you will, that they dreamed of. And so here we are walking in their dreams. And though the times at hand are conflicting, we are in mourning in America. Still we rise, to quote Dr. Angelou, still we rise. And it just, we are the women, we are the people for such a time as this. But
We
it's been
are.
extraordinary. I couldn't have enough pages, in the magazine, to say what I wanted to say, to show the images that I wanted to show. And I think my greatest, um, anxiousness or anxiety, if you will, was that we only came out 12 times a year. There was always something
Right.
to say. There was always more to show. If you look at Black womanhood in all its glory, and to be tasked with holding up the mirror on that, yeah, it's just, there was never enough. Never enough.
You held up quite a responsible, authentic, and intentional mirror of us.
Thank
And on behalf of everyone who's joining us tonight, thank you. Now, you
you.
mentioned something that was extremely important in what we were talking about before you joined. How are you doing overall with the unrest and the outrage that's going on in the country now, with, of course, COVID-19 that is destroying so many parts of our community, and Black men and Black women being unjustly killed and murdered and vilified? How does Mikki take care of herself during this time? And what advice do you have for
Well,
the people who
I
share that they're anxious?
I certainly realize that the work is not done. And I'm really taking a page out of my mother and my father's book. You know, I came of age. In fact, I came of age during the 67 riots in Newark, the city of my birth. And I remember I was away at camp and my brother was home, my folks were home, and they had to lie on the floor while bullets were flying over their head and so forth. And I remember calling my mother and saying, I must come home, I want to fight. And she wouldn't allow me to. But my mother said that, we had to be relentless in our determination to bring about a change, that we had to pray fervently. In fact, that she said that we had to protest peacefully, but most of all, that politically, that's where our voices would be heard the loudest. And I remember my mother joined the local civic association, and she was very active in, those who were elected in the city of Newark and on up the pipeline in government, if you will. And so I know the same thing is true for us, that we must protest peacefully. We must come together and be strategic about this, because racism is systemic in America, and it's not going anywhere until the same people who are oppressed change it. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm taking a page from my mother. I'm gathering with those who are not afraid to use their power. I'm praying fervently, because prayer is part of everything that I do. But showing up, yes, I'm enraged. And so I have to channel that into action. In the meanwhile, I have to be ever more deeply engaged in self-care. I certainly can't give in to fear. I don't want to be a manufacturer of fear. I'm a wife to a brother. I have a biological brother. I have a son. I have a nephew, brother-in-laws, that any of them at any given time could be the George Floyd of America. So, we're already having these conversations with our children. Enough already. Now we've got to have these conversations where they count. We've got to really bring about the change, and we can't shrink back. We have to rise up. So I am encouraged. I am enraged. I am moving faith forward, and I am not shrinking back.
Thank you for that. And thank you so much for mentioning the self-care. I
Yeah,
think it's intentional for us to disconnect when we need to,
right.
because it can be over-consuming to the spirit to continuously see and hear and to be exposed. So I know for me personally, I tune in and then I disconnect. I tune in and then I disconnect. So I'm so happy that you mentioned that. Then
Yeah.
you mentioned the strong legacy that you come from. You mentioned your mother and your father. Can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit about what did they put in the ingredients of you?
Well, I was raised actually with two edicts. One that said, if the best is possible, then good is not enough. And my mother and father were both entrepreneurs in the city of Newark. And the other was, to be risk adverse is to be success adverse. So when you come of age with those as mandates and edicts, if you will, that's a high bar. But you understand that you can not only meet it, but that you can set a higher standard. And so that's what was instilled in me. That's what was instilled in our siblings. And my mother was actually a hairstylist, makeup artist, and wardrobe stylist to the late American icon that was Sarah Vaughan. And my mother traveled the world with her for 10 years. And then she worked locally with her. And then she actually opened her own beauty salon. And that's why I always say I came of age in beauty school, so to speak, because it's in my DNA, in that I understood the power of Black beauty. And I realized that while women were sitting under the hairdryer, that they were getting affirmation, they were having fellowship, they were exchanging ideas, they were linking arms and aims about matters that were important to them and important to the community. My father had a lounge in Newark, New Jersey, that not only sold, served spirits, but fine food as well. My father he was an amazing cook. He wouldn't think of himself as a chef. He was far too humble for that. But yeah, just engagement, communication, the conversations. I loved hanging around grown folks because that's where the wisdom was. And it was really tough because I came of age when children should be seen and not heard and not in grown folks' business. But those conversations informed me a lot. So, certainly when I went on, after high school and started my modeling career, actually during high school and modeling on the pages of Essence, never did I dream that I would go on to be an editor there. But
Wow.
yeah, I joined
Wait,
at
let's
19.
go back. So it's a full circle moment.
Yeah,
You went from modeling to being an editor.
that's right. That's right.
Wow.
I first visited Essence in 1971. And at that time, Essence was in a brownstone on East 30th Street. And my mother used to bring magazines home from Europe and everywhere. But of course, they were full of white models. And when she brought Essence home in 1970, this was the first time I saw myself in a magazine. And so when I went over for a casting call in 1971, I met Susan Taylor for the first time. And there were all these gorgeous queens sitting at typewriters and typing out our stories. And I was fascinated by that. And so modeled on the pages for a number of years. Susan said, I remember her saying to me that the agencies didn't have brown models like me with full features. Most of the agencies had black models with Eurocentric features and what have you. And, Essence is about us, all shades, shapes, and sizes. And so, yeah, and I also had a background working on 7th Avenue, both in fashion and production and so forth. And so there was an opening in the fashion and beauty department, and that's where I started. And 1 year later, I became beauty editor.
Wow.
And yeah, one of the most things that I will always remember is that my job description said that my role as beauty editor was to affirm the culture's definition of beauty. And I think had I not grown up the way I did, that might have been daunting, but I knew us and there was much to tell. So yeah, it was pretty fascinating.
It seems like any interview that I've seen you in and looking at you now, you smile from the inside out when you talk about us in our beauty, in our essence. What does it do for you and for your own soul to uplift us so highly? And what's your recipe for making sure that you uplift us in all our hues?
Well, it's an honor and a privilege. I see us. I've traveled the world and I see us. I see what shows up when we step into a room.
Mm,
I understand us. I understand the relationship we have with ourselves and our beauty and those we love and serve. And we're nurturers at heart. And just that power and how it channels out of each individual. I remember the first time I worked with Alice Walker, and Alice Walker had locks. And I asked her about her hair because I could tell that it wasn't just a hairstyle for her. And she said that she had a spiritual relationship with her locks.
mm.
That's unique to us. Or when we shot the cover of Angela Davis and that amazing gap that she had and that smile and just seeing who she was, all the women who were inside of her, not just the one that maybe people read about or knew, but so that is like a revelation. And so to be able to serve a revelation is pretty astronomical. That's unprecedented. Yeah, and that's how I see us.
That's
Yeah.
powerful. That's absolutely powerful. Speaking of, you mentioned Angela Davis, Alice Walker. She's my lock hero, Shiro.
Yes.
Have you ever interviewed someone and you had to almost step outside of yourself because number one, the audacity of God to place you so well and intentionally to do these interviews, but that out of body experience of, wow, this is what I am doing in this moment. Do you have an experience like that?
I think multiple times. Multiple, multiple times. It almost renders me childlike. In fact, I think, certainly several years ago, I think in 2003, I've worked with Oprah on and off since 1985, but for the magazine, but when I interviewed Oprah for my book, my first book, Self-Seduction, and I remember we were sitting there in her hotel room, and it was Oprah, myself, my dear friend, Pamela, and Gail, Oprah's dear friend, Gail King. And I'm sitting there interviewing her for my book. And she's talking about her childhood. And I'm just, that moment. And my friend said to me after, she said, wow, my best friend is sitting here interviewing Oprah girls' night out. And it was both organic and easy and familiar, but yet it was Oprah and it was my book. I think another time I have known Mrs. Obama since 2006, but in 2008, when he was president-elect, I photographed the first family cover of them in their home in Chicago. I was cover director, and actually Kwaku Austin, our photographer, photographed them. But Mrs. Obama and I were sitting at the dining room table talking.
Wow.
Like girl, woman stuff, queen talk. And for him to come, her and the girls had just come home from the hairdresser. And so then he comes and that already was kind of an out of body experience because the Secret Service were everywhere all over the house. And you're sitting here and this is normal, but this is so not normal. And then he comes in and we're talking and he's got his foot on the table and just, they live in a real home and they're real folks and beloved for every reason they deserve. But when it was time to do the shoot, he comes to me and Mr. President stands right in front of you and he's like taller than the real tall that he is. And he's asking me, he's holding up two shirts and he's asking me which shirt should he wear. And the shy little girl in me, I was almost speechless. I mean, he could have held up, a can of paint and I would have said fabulous. I was so out of body. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so we decided on the shirt, but it was just like, wow, that really just happened. Mr. President, because he was already president to us, just asked me, what shirt should he wear? What shirt should he wear? Who cares? It's Mr. President. Yeah. So yeah, there were those moments. Yeah. Standing many, many years ago in Atlanta, talking with Coretta Scott King at a ceremony for Martin Luther King birthday and then talking later with his sister and like old friends. There have been many, many, many moments like that. And I just say, but God, because I know that it's him. It's not me. It's nothing I've done. It's part of the assignment. And so I walk in gratitude. I walk, in the humble steps of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, out of body, but in the humble steps of that. Yeah.
How have you remained so grounded? How do you stand so firmly and be present, but to stay humble at the same time? You have sat at the table with the Obamas, our forever president and forever first lady. How do you remain humble?
It's faith. And I always say that faith is nothing if it's not defining your life. And, it's faith. And I understand the power of the Almighty. I know where my little power, falls off if there's anything to be said for it. But I also live by the word that says, to whom much is given, much is required. And so in order to serve, you must be humble. You
Absolutely.
yeah, you have to understand with great presence of mind what that means, what rests with you, that you have to understand the power of that lies in moving yourself out of the way in order to give your best to others. So, yeah, I am really clear about that. I have nothing to be braggadocious, big headed, anything about us, about me rather, because it's all about us. It's all about us. Yeah. Yeah, it's all about us. Yeah.
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
have, what I learned that we have these experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't always know why those experiences are happening in that moment. And I've
Right.
I've come to learn at almost 40 years old, I've come to learn that those are deposits from God. Those
Yes.
are deposits for where we will be. What has shown up full circle for you from the experiences that you've had that you realize that those experiences were deposits for the present moment? Was deposits for you to sit at the table with Oprah, the deposits for you to be intentional, that who would be on the cover of Essence and so on and so forth, in the words that you write.
I think certainly with my parents reminding me the importance of understanding my value and that self-perception colors your entire life and how you conduct yourself in the world. I think being encouraged to be a good listener. When we were young, we were taught, don't talk when you should listen.
Mm,
Might miss something. And and so I try to be a good listener and even better, an observant. And it really paid off for me because I remember when I came to Essence, Susan Taylor said to me that we put this magazine out for and about ourselves, and that whatever you're experiencing, other Black women are too. So it wasn't really hard to create those stories that were necessary. If hair challenges, we're all experiencing hair challenges, skin challenges, products that work for us when they aren't marketed to us, how will we know? Relationships, Essence talked about every aspect of our lives, from relationships to work to money to, you name it. So I think that's why it even became the Bible for Black women, because it was relevant and still is relevant to our lives.
absolutely, absolutely. How Another question, because you've been in big spaces, vast spaces. How haven't you, or have you ever wanted to shrink and almost hide behind someone else because it was a fear if you were deserving to be there or not? And my good friend Dr. Joy would say that that's imposter syndrome. Have you ever experienced that?
I won't say I've experienced it at that level, but what I will say in that I certainly had to overcome a large degree of shyness. And I learned that I couldn't be effective if I was going to be shy, because it kept getting in the way. And particularly, at beauty press events, if you will, where I was the only person of color, um, and in situations where so-called powerful people were. And so I had to learn to I made a joke. I said I would leave my shy self at home and tell her all about it when I came back. And that little game worked for me until one day I grew up well enough to divorce her.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, but that certainly is as close as I've come to it. And so, I think we all have something to overcome. And so that was
Hmm.
it for me.
And for
Yeah.
people who that is their struggle, how do they get through that process of divorcing that nagging voice? And I believe that nagging voice, imposter syndrome, shyness, or whatever it may be,
Yeah.
is deferring us from our sole purpose. How do they get to the point where they can get through the divorce and start to detangle from that relationship?
Yeah. So that really goes back to knowing your value and recognizing that there is only one of you in the universe, and that you have to be intentionally strong in fulfilling your purpose, so that if you move your persona out of the way, or whatever that thing is, and focus on your purpose, that I can say now, being fully grown, that is what will get you there quickly. That's what will help you sprint right to it, knowing your purpose, and certainly focusing on that, because then you understand this is the work that you are here to do, that this is what you must do, and do it through your gift, do it through your divine assignment, do it through that which you clearly see and know how to do. And don't wait for someone else to show up what you've been packaged to do. Yeah.
And I think it's important for all of us to know that purpose isn't easy.
No, it's a responsibility, but it rests with you, and you must use it. You must spend all of it. No question. No question. You must spend all of it. Yeah.
And on that journey of fulfilling our purpose, how do we know when it's time for us to pivot? How do we know that we're on the right journey? We may want something so passionately, and we feel that it's for us, but nothing seems to be working and conspiring in our favor in that way. How do we know when it's time to pivot?
That's when you have to get still. And you really have to have that introspective conversation and answer those questions that only you can answer. And in addition to that, one of the things I talk about in my latest book, Editor in Chic, is that you have to surround yourself with the right people. In Editor in Chic, I call it a celebration circle. Those are the people in your life who keenly want you to win. And they're there to push, polish, and check you into your greatness. And so you have to convene with them. They're your counsel. You don't have to know all the answers, but again, it's about surrounding yourself with the people who together they do. And that's what will keep you from having pity parties, or going down the wrong track, or, trying to embrace potential as opposed to fulfilling your purpose. Potential, here's a great job, I'm going to make a 6-figure salary, but you're not going to be happy over there. That's not what you were called to do. And so that's where your celebration circle comes in, and they tell you that you're running from your greatness, and you were created to do more than just make money or follow what worked for someone else. Yeah, that's I'm in.
I love the celebration circle, and having a strong sister tribe or brother tribe, wherever your love comes from, I think is the most important. Speaking
Right.
of sisterhood, and I know how much you love it and how much you advocate for it, how do you set boundaries in sisterhood when we are all striving to be our sister's keeper? How do you set those boundaries?
Well, first of all, you cannot give out of your lack. And I think we have a tendency to give more yeses than we can cash.
Mm.
We want to say yes to everybody because we care how they feel. We don't want to offend anyone. So we show up even half-heartedly sometimes to do what someone else thinks we should do, as opposed to doing what we know is best. And so, one of the things I say is you have to learn how to take the rain check. To say, well, I can't do it today, but here's when you can count on me. Because today I've got to refuel. I've got to restore. We got to learn how to lovingly say no, and understand that that's a complete thought, that we don't have to add to it. The other thing that I think we have to do is that we have to get more in the business of self-nurturing. And part of that means getting comfortable with seeing yourself show up on your calendar. Scheduling time for yourself. Because if you don't know how to take care of home first, you certainly can't set boundaries when it comes to other people. You also have to know that everybody is not meant to be in your inner circle. Everybody's not meant to be in your life permanently. Some come for a season. Some make withdrawals as opposed to deposits. And your instincts tell you, but maybe you want to be a chauffeur to someone else's feelings, or you count their feelings more important than yours. And I say, don't be guilty of that. Don't be guilty of that.
And you said that some people are only there for a season.
That's very true. And you have to know the difference. And it is what it is. It is what it is. you do under, and they also know that, and their behavior starts to show that, and you can't make provision for the bad behavior of others in your life. That's an insult to the truth of who you are.
Are people allowed to return for a new season?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, the best relationships are reciprocal. So you know, what do we have? How we can serve and love and honor one another. That's the strategic part of any relationship. And you know, one of the things I even talk about in the book is that, you know, we have to ask ourselves, am I the kind of person that I would want in my life?
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
responsibility that goes with that.
And
Yeah.
then when we're honest and we ask that question, am I the person? Am I the type of person I want to be in
Yes.
my life and somebody else's life?
Right.
When the answer comes back no, I think that's when it's time to go and do the work. I
That's
think
right.
I think it's waiting for the honest answer and not the answer that makes us comfortable.
Right. Right. And you know what, you know, that's another thing that I say, that you have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone so that you can really know your power zone. It's not in the comfort moments in life. It's not there. That's not even where you grow the most. You grow the most in the uncomfortable moments of life, the inconvenient truths. That's where you grow the most.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, you know the village market is full of entrepreneurs, full of
Yeah.
dreamers, people who are turning the pages of history.
Yeah.
Let's pivot the conversation to talk about entrepreneurship. You are an author.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have written multiple books.
Yeah.
Yes. Can you tell me your journey, that entrepreneur journey? How, what does your schedule look like first? And your writing schedule, number one, for all the future authors out there and people who are currently writing their projects. What is that process for you?
You know, first of all, for me, there's no 2 days alike. And I remember when I started my first book, I was waiting for, you know, I guess I thought I was going to take this writer's retreat while being an editor at Essence. And Terry McMillan told me, she said, you know, you have to, it's not going to happen like that. And I've been walking around with this book in my head for years. And she said, if you take 15 minutes a day, by the end of the week, look at what that'll add up to. And so that's how I got that first book done. And so it became
15 minutes a day.
15 minutes a day. And then it
Wow.
into 30 minutes a day and more. And I began to carve out time and to really own my energies, understanding that, you know, I wrote best early in the morning. So that's what that meant, rising up, making that sacrifice and writing in the morning. Because the truth of the matter is, you do walk around with a book in your head before you ever write it. So now you're giving the audience the gift that they've been waiting for. And that's how you have to look at it. You know, Toni Morrison said it best: if you have something to say, put it in a book. And that,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And so for me, there's no 2 days alike. You know, before COVID-19, you know, one day I wake up, I'm going to an airport. Another day I'm going in the studio, or I'm on stage, or I'm writing, or. So now with COVID-19, I'm doing a lot of virtual. But again, still scheduling time for self, you know, taking those slow baths, or in my garden, if you will, or reading, because I have, you know, I get up early, I have my meditation, I'm reading information from different parts of the world, and then I start my day and whatever that is going to be during that day, based on the conference calls, webinars, what have you. But, you know, one of the things I've been saying to us as entrepreneurs is that this moment in time is pregnant with opportunity, and that if
Mm.
we labor right, we're going to give birth to some amazing successes. So if you look at all the things that were on your someday calendar, you know, because I've heard the talk, well, one day I'm going to do this, someday I'm going to write a book, one day I'm going to so and so. Well, God has given you that one day now. So the question is, will you use it? And how will you use it? Those dreams, those ideas that you've had, that, you know, look at the marketplace even. What can you solve? You know what we all stand in need of. And maybe the vision was given to just you. Don't sit on it. In fact, don't add it up, multiply it, make it count, visualize the audience that it's going to serve, and get busy. Get connected with others. You can get anybody's attention now because everybody's at home.
Absolutely.
Right. So, don't sit on your dreams. This is not a staycation. Now's the time to really go to work.
Absolutely. So, and that 15 minutes that you mentioned about writing, that can be applied to any journey for an entrepreneur.
Right.
Dedicate 15 minutes. It turns into 30 minutes. That turns into an hour of what you are working on.
That's
So,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a book, you all, as you listen. If it's your products, give it all that you have. Be present for 15 minutes and then
That's
keep adding those minutes.
That's right. And keep stirring up your passion. Because, see, when your passion enters whatever you're working on, you're going to be relentless in your determination to bring it forth. Keep stirring up your passion. Don't let it be a pet project. If it's just a pet project, don't do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What does leaning in? We've seen that, and that I think Oprah said it first, lean in. And
Yeah.
then now we see it on social everywhere. What does
Yeah.
leaning into your purpose and your passion look like to you? How do you lean in?
Wow. I never thought about it because I do that every day. I'm in it.
Hmm.
I'm in it.
Hmm.
It's like if you can imagine being in a vortex and everything is humming around you and you're at the center of it. That's my everyday. I'm in it. I don't have to consciously lean in. I don't have to no, I'm in it. There is no, wow, I never thought about it like that. I'm in it. I'm engaged, hook, line, and sinker till I take my life. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is who I serve. And so, yeah, I never thought about it like that. No,
How do
I
and
didn't have
that's
to press reset or have a knee-jerk reaction. No, I'm doing what I was born to do.
that's
It's like
powerful.
breathe. It's like the air I breathe. I don't have to be strategic about breathing. Yeah. Yeah.
That is absolutely powerful. And I believe when people talk about goals, they want to be so clear in their purpose. They want to be so on fire how we see you are. And I wonder, how do people ascend to that space? This 40 plus years of experience that you have. And I believe now it's so easy for us to become distracted and to start modeling our dreams after other people or questioning our purpose because it doesn't appear like someone else. How do we silence the world? How do you silence the world and get so quiet that you don't hear any of it?
Because I treasure my vision space. I know the power
Mm.
of this. I know what dwells here divinely, pragmatically, all of that. So you have to treasure your vision space. The Bible puts it this way. It says, guard your mind with all diligence. And so you have to be like the point guard on your command center, your mind. A point guard guards the players, the balls so relentlessly that he's almost got eyes in the back of his head. And so you have to treasure or guard your vision space like that. You can't allow everything in. You have to watch where you spend your dwell time, especially if you are running for your purpose. Then it's like an athlete in training. You have to be diligent about that. And so one of the things that to prevent distractions, to keep getting pulled off course, to even not think that the grass is greener on the other side, you have to guard your vision space. It is sacred space. It is given to you as sacred space, and you have to treat it like that and not look for validation for your dreams. I think that's another
That's
thing.
good. That's very good.
Validation. I can remember 6 years into my tenure at Essence that I pitched for the position of cover editor and became beauty and cover director. And it wasn't something that was given to me. I didn't need validation from someone else to do it. I had a vision for the cover. I wanted to brand a signature look, and I mapped it out on paper myself. And that was added to my job description. So don't wait for, validation. If you see it, activate it. Because the miracle is in seeing it. This comes out of your command center. So what are you waiting for? Why do you need consensus? I really do believe that just like you get an inheritance, it's already packaged for you. While you're growing up, it's invested for you so that when you come of age and you get it, it's solid. I really do believe divine packages, divine assignment is like that you inherited and God gave it to you fully packaged. The validation doesn't get any higher than that. So if you can just even see it through that lens, that's reason enough for you to activate it. That it's been
Absolutely.
given to you. You've been entrusted to bring this to life. Entrusted. So then you realize, well, I can't shrink back from this. I can't allow things to distract me from this. This is something that was handed to me. I didn't buy this. This came from my command central. That's enough. That's validation enough. You don't need consensus for that.
Absolutely. The vision is validation enough.
Vision is validation enough.
That is absolute. I hope you all are keeping up with all these gems. They're absolutely, absolutely beautiful. Another entrepreneur question. I believe that excellence should be our standard in all things.
Yes.
I don't believe in perfection. I used to. I didn't because I thought that's what I was supposed to strive for. That's what I've seen. And I've learned that excellence should be at the apex.
Right.
They were always, what does excellence look like for you in what you put out in the world, and for entrepreneurs who are just starting? Because their bar would be quite different than yours at this point.
I think that, again, one of the first edicts I learned, if the best is possible, then good is not enough. And each of us gets to define what our best is. And in our hearts of hearts, that's our truth. We know what that is. So that's the first thing. Excellence is your best. It's different for you than it is for me. And then certainly, if you understand that we have the privilege of walking in the dreams of our ancestors, if we understand that the work they did to get us here today, then excellence is to carry on and to do greater with all that we have at our disposal, if you will. The fact that I'm sitting here talking to you like this when my grandmother had to pick up a telephone, a landline. Yeah. Before that, she had to write letters. When my mother was on a ship in Europe in the 50s, the best she could do was send a telegraph. So the fact that I can sit here and talk to you like this, that I can talk to all of us like this, so it's certainly communication is one great place to start. So when you understand it like that, you're not daunted. When you're not daunted by, if you look at all the things that you're capable, and not only that you're capable of doing that, but collectively we are capable of doing. What you could accomplish by linking arms and aims with someone else even who's like-minded. Again, I go back to that term multiply, because addition is so small. But multiply, yeah, that's what you want. You want to multiply. And then I go back to that, for entrepreneurs, back to the scripture it says, the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. We have to be willing to do the work. That means you have to show up ready, prepared, informed. This is where, it takes preparation to meet opportunity and win. There's no question. It takes preparation to meet opportunity and win. Otherwise, you can't sustain it.
Absolutely.
That's where imposter syndrome really comes up. When you get there and you don't have what it takes to sustain it.
And the work doesn't always require an audience. I think that is one thing that we all have to learn, that everyone doesn't have to hear or see what the dream is. Our job is to work towards the dream.
That's right.
but in this space, what I am seeing trending through social is that we have to talk about it so much. We have to capture it in pictures so much to look like we're working.
Validation,
What validation?
validation,
Validation.
validation.
And how do, and I'm going to ask this one more time because I know that this is something that I keep seeing over and over again. How do we quiet that nagging voice that so needs to be validated?
You know, one of the things I wrote about in Editor in Chic is this. I said, anything that doesn't hold up against the truth has to be dismissed.
Oh, that's,
And
can you say that again one
any,
more time?
anything that doesn't hold up against the truth has to be dismissed. So if you think that you are the sum of 500 likes, when you know that's not true, then it's on you to take that captive and dismiss it.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's a drop mic. You can drop mic there. That is excellent.
that's it. That's
That's
it.
it.
Dismiss
That's
it.
it.
Dismiss it. And so if you need a seed to process that through, that's it. If it doesn't hold up against the truth, has no validity, that then you have to dismiss it.
That's it.
That's
That's
it.
good. That's good. And I see I have some entrepreneurs on who I know are mothers as well and wives.
Yeah.
I read that when you while you're working at Essence, you had a crib in your office. Is
I
that true?
do. So
How
true.
how did you and when I read that I laughed out loud because I said only the black woman would say I am going to go so passionately after my dreams, and my children would be in the energy of it every day.
That's right.
That
That's
is powerful.
Yeah. I had the crib in the office for the last two. They were 17 months apart, and I was still nursing. And the power of motherhood did not take away from my mental capacity as an editor, that I could certainly nurse my baby and be on the phone negotiating a cover, or that the sisterhood in the office, that I could go down to a meeting in the conference room and know that if one of the babies woke up, that there was going to be a sister to take that baby on their lap until the meeting was over. And,
Wow.
and but you know, again, it's stepping out of your comfort zone into your power zone. And I knew at 6 weeks, I knew at 3 months, you know, different maternity leaves, that I was not ready to leave my babies who I had carried in my womb for 9 months, who I had dreamed of coming of age, that I was going to then turn into this, to someone who could leave them and disconnect. I just couldn't do it. I don't judge, but I couldn't do it. It didn't work for me in my life. And I talk a lot about that in Editor in Chic. It's important to own your life.
Absolutely. And another thing that you didn't do, you were able to birth these beautiful babies and you continue to birth your dreams.
Yes.
How did you know you could do both?
I never thought I couldn't.
That's good.
Organic to me. It was organic to me. Even when I had to, when they were older and I had finished nursing and they were toddlers, or I remember preparing their food and leaving it in the freezer so that, you know, my husband and the babysitter could see that they still had natural foods. And, you know, you do what is clear to you to do. And that was clear to me. You know, again, I dreamt of being a mother. I wanted to be grown all my life as my being a mother and a wife, and being able to be this multi-hyphenate, I guess, if you will. And in fact, it was encouraged. My mother worked. In fact, my mother went on the road for the first time when I was 4 weeks old. And they traveled by ocean liner back then. So she didn't get back home until I was 4 months old. And my grandmother raised me with the help of a nanny. But, and so I had this modeled before me. So it was very clear that if I think Booker T. Washington said it so well. He said, excellence is to do a common thing in an uncommon way. So was it uncommon? Absolutely. But that was my excellence. That was my best. And it continued even into their, when they graduated from college. I remember my son graduated from college on a Saturday morning, and I was in LA on a shoot Friday, and I took the red eye back, flew to Virginia. He graduated Virginia State. My flight landed at 7. The graduation was at 9, but I was there. And what they remember to this day is that I never missed an important occasion.
Wow.
If that's a legacy, that's one I'm proud of.
Wow.
That it worked for my life. It worked for us.
How do you give yourself compassion as a mother, as a wife, as an author? What does compassion look like for yourself? Because there are some things that you can't do. There's those no's, like you said, with a period at the end. How do you offer grace to yourself and compassion?
Because I do everything out of a pure heart.
Mm-hmm.
I do everything out of love. I cook in love. And if God has told me that but one is perfect, and it's not me. So that's my pass. I get a pass every day. I get a pass every day. I'm not perfect. You're not going to be perfect. Don't let that get in your way. But if you do things in love, the Bible says that the greatest of any virtue you can have is love. So that's where I find compassion, because I live and breathe and serve out of a pure heart, a heart of love. And, that from cooking to what I do in the lives of others, what I do on behalf of others, I show up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's how. And do I make mistakes? Yes. I learned years ago, someone told me once, and it was humorous. It wasn't funny, but it was humorous, but it made perfect sense, that there are those who have failed their way to the top. And they got there by learning the lessons all along the way. So, everything has its benefits. The mistakes you make, the failures, the what have you, everything has its benefits.
That's good. And we have time for 2 more questions.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people experience, though the world is quiet in a sense, and there is space and capacity to start birthing these babies that they dreamed of. Trauma is also going on.
Yeah.
But 2020 was symbolic for the year of the overflow for so many. How do people transition their mind from what they thought was going to be or finally be in 2020? How do they make that pivot? I've had to make that pivot as an entrepreneur. How do we train our mind to be strong in our pivot?
Think of it this way. You've been given a blank slate and you get to fill it in.
Mm-hmm.
You ought to be running to do that. Bring everything to the table that you've got. Not what you thought it was, because the past will cripple you at best. Not your what ifs, because that'll paralyze you at best. But your right now, your presence of mind, what you dream of, what you see to do. You've been handed a blank slate. And you've been given the authority. One of my favorite Mikkiisms is don't ask permission where you already have the authority. You've been given the authority to figure this out.
Wow.
Figure out whatever it is. How can you, again, be a part of the solution and not the problem? Problems we'll always have with us, but how can you be a part of the solution? And also think about who you know. We pass people by. One thing COVID has given us is the art of communication. because we've had to find other ways. We can't touch anybody. Many of us can't go where they are, but we can get through them. We can get to them through digitally, through technology, what have you. Think about the harvest. Again, like I said, the harvest is plenty. Who do you know? How can they be a participant in what you want to do?
That's good. And you have a book out.
Yeah.
Get yes, can we talk, can we spend at least 1 minute talking about this book? Because I have it. Do you see it tagged there? I mean, we need to buy and read this book. Can you tell us what I believe all these gems that you dropped tonight are in the book. So can you give us now 45 seconds because we're running out of time about your book?
All right, so Editor-in-Chief, I wrote because I was traveling the country and finding that we were in survival mode when we were created to thrive. So I couldn't have asked for a better time. Editor-in-Chief is a pandemic primer for life, for your inner and outer beauty, to help you master the empire that is You Inc. In fact, the book closes with 25 steps to master You Inc. It is the book that teaches you how to own your life, celebrate your truth, and master your purpose with distinction. So those are 3 good reasons why you
Absolutely.
copy today. And you can have it in paperback, ebook, hardcover, or the audio version, which I narrated. So you can have me have the conversation with me through Editor-in-Chief like that.
So, Village, you all know what we do. Support is a verb. We're getting the book. I'm so excited to read it. And I want to tell you really briefly all the tables that you sat in, that euphoric feeling when you met the Obamas and interviewed Oprah, that little girl feeling. That's what I feel tonight. I am deeply honored to be in this space and capacity with you. These are dreams fulfilled for me. Thank
Oh,
you.
so honored. Thank you. Thank you. Well,
So
blessings and joy to you.
the same, the same. Thank you so much. Good
Thank
night, everybody.
Good night.